All right.
I don't know where David went, but I wanted him to know that I grew up on Highway 66, Route 66 in Oklahoma. And I used to call it a peek and plum town. Peek around the corner and you plumb out of town. Really small town. So it must not have been, it was only 2 hours where David grew up. And when I lived in this little town, you know, it's pretty isolated, but I had a globe. And I used to look at my globe and I used to say, when I get big, I'm going to go to India and see the Taj Mahal, and I'm going to go to Mexico, I'm going to see Chichen Itza, and then I'm going to go to Turkey, and I'm going to see Ephesus, and then I'm going to go to Australia, and I'm going to see the Barrier Reef, and I'm going to go to New York and see the Empire State Building, and I'm going to go to the Grand Canyon, and I'm going to look at that big hole. And I did go to the Grand Canyon, and I did go all of those places. And my parents, you know, were flabbergasted because they laughed at me, really. They go, isn't that cute? You know, she thinks you're going to go all those places. And my dad said, I don't know why you have this urge to go all these places. You know, we've got a set of encyclopedias. All kinds of information in there. You don't have to go all those places. But I did. And I went to the Grand Canyon, and of course it was one of 5 million people who go there every summer and look into the Grand Canyon hole. Now, when I got to Austin, I became acquainted and ran with a group of friends, and the guys in that group had all gone to Princeton together. And they were always talking about these summer trips because after college they had decided to go every summer on a trip together, and they would take the wives and girlfriends. And I'd see the pictures, and I'd hear the tales, and I'd be like, oh, I want to go. And they go, nope, it's just girlfriends, wives, and us. You know, we can't take everybody. It's like, okay. So I thought when I was getting ready to turn 40, and I was even like 39, planning ahead, I said, I'm going to call up 9 friends, and I'm going to ask them to go to the Grand Canyon with me and hike the Grand Canyon for my 40th birthday. I'm just going to hike down in there and hike back out because very few people ever do anything other than just look at the Grand Canyon from those railings. And so I got 9 friends geared up to go, and in a year in advance, actually 13 months in advance, I got the house at the bottom of the Grand Canyon called Phantom Ranch. And it's real hard to get, but I worked it all out, and I called, the day you could try to get it 13 months in advance. And so we got to the Grand Canyon. It was a lot of organization, and so 10 of us went down we were going to go down one side of the Grand Canyon and come out on the other side. Now the side that we were going down was a 3 or 4 hour hike, and the one on the coming up was 6 or 7. But I thought, oh, we'll be all seasoned by then after we'd been down, had a rest and all that. So we went down that, and when we got to the bottom of the Grand Canyon, we had our house ready, 10 bunk beds, very simple, very plain, but very, cool to be there. Everybody else is sleeping out in sleeping bags. And of course, I had to convince everybody we'd get this house because there's poisonous snakes and centipedes and scorpions and all these things that are in the Grand Canyon. So the next day, I had 2 problems. Or actually 3 problems. I had one woman that was throwing up. There was somebody down there who was an ER kind of person that's stationed there with the Grand Canyon, and they said she was dehydrated. I was so mad at her because on the way down, we had all our little dried fruit and our apples and stuff, and she wouldn't eat any of it and drink very little water because she wanted to diet. She wanted to just use that opportunity to hike the Grand Canyon and get thin. Well, she was dehydrated. So they said, we're going to have to call in a helicopter and helicopter her out. Okay. The second person had a knee problem. So I dealt with her, and we were trying to figure out if she could make it to the top, if she'd damage her knee more. And I said, well, as long as the helicopter's here, you might as well just go out. Now, the third person, they wanted to go on the helicopter. They said, this is too much, I'm not going to do this. It nearly killed me yesterday to do 3 or 4 miles. Now we're going to do 6 or 7. And so I said, well, there's only 2 seats on the airplane. So if you're going to go, we're going to have to get another helicopter, and then somebody else will go, and I'll be the only one down here. And I said, you can make it. I said, what is the hardest thing you've ever done in your life? She said, well, I said, you had a baby, didn't you? And she said, yes. I said, if you can have a baby, you can walk out of this canyon. So start walking. So she started walking. A little ways in, she said, that's it, I can't go any further, I'm not going to make it. I said, you're having a baby. Waddle it on up because you're not having a baby till you get to the top. So eventually, we all got halfway, so that was about 4 miles up, and I realized that in the first 4 miles coming out of the canyon, we had trees. And so it wasn't too hot or anything. It was kind of pleasant, but tough and rugged. But at the 4th mile, we were up where the trees stopped, and I looked up, and there was nothing but switchbacks all the way up. And the sun had come out. It must have been 100 degrees. And so we had to go 4 more miles in these switchbacks. And I'm telling you, it was grueling. But it's one of those things when you get to the top, it's such a victory. You're so happy. And, of course, Janet, who said, I won't make it. I said, you had the baby. She said, it's better. We went to a restaurant that night, and I am not kidding. We were like 40-year-old women or 39, whatever, close. And, you know, we're going to the restaurant like this. Oh, there's 3 stairs. Because it was really grueling. And not very long after that, out of the clear blue, I got a phone call, and it's James, who's kind of the head honcho of the Princeton boys that do all this whitewater rafting, and he said, Tom and his girlfriend broke up, so you could go in her place. You're kidding! Because, see, the way they plan these Grand Canyon trips, they do it for a whole year in advance because they have it all scheduled. You know, 2 people handle the boats, 2 people cook, 2 people clean, 2 people put the toilets up because we carry our own toilets in because this is a wilderness. We have a permit. Everything that goes in comes out. Yes, the toilets go in, and what goes in the toilets comes right back out with us. We hold it for 19 days in the Grand Canyon on this trip. He said it's a 19-day trip. Is that a problem? No. I canceled all my stuff, and I got realtors to handle my real estate business. And he said, now you got to pack your clothes, get over to Tom's because you're packing with him, and you have to bring some kind of surprise. We all bring a surprise, and we have surprises at night. And it can't have any weight, and it can't be big. It has to be tiny, and it can't be fireworks, and it can't be all the things I was thinking about. So I said, okay, I got my bags all packed, and on the way over, I said, tomorrow I'm going to give him my surprise. I'm going to shave my head. Now, when I was 40 and I'm 60-something now, shaving your head was like unfreaking believable. I mean, people do it now, and it's a lot more common. But back then, I mean, people wouldn't go out to lunch with me. They wouldn't walk down the street with me. You know, they were like, if you don't put a hat on, I'm not going anywhere. So I get to the Grand Canyon. I meet everybody there. But before, I had gone to Tom's house, and I got, you know, I drove up, and I got all my stuff out. You know, I got this bag, and I got that bag, and I'm up with my bags, you know, ready to go, Tom. I'm all ready to pack. And he went, okay. Now, he's all depressed because the girlfriend broke up with him. And so he starts going through my stuff. This won't go. This will go. Let's go. I hauled everything back to my car except for a pair of water shoes, 2 pairs of shorts, a bathing suit top, a long sleeve shirt with sleeves, sunscreen, and a hat. That was it. 19 days. I thought, well, you know, I wanted to go. Like, oh, yeah. So away we go. I get to the Grand Canyon, and, of course, we have to meet the Grand Canyon people because it's a permit. These permits are by lottery. They're extremely difficult to get. But these, like, you know, 9 guys would all put in all kinds of multiple things to try to get a place on the lottery. And they had this, you know, 19-day trip. And so they come down and check out. You know, they make sure you have the toilet, make sure you have the stuff that goes out, the stuff that goes in the toilet. They make sure you have strainers because as you wash the dishes, you must strain all the water and take anything that's left in the water, like the little piece of fried egg or whatever, has to go back out with you. Because when you go into, they have assigned camps that you go to in this trip, and every time you arrive, it is absolutely spotless. And you sit out there at night after eating, and all these animals come down to go to the water. They don't pay any attention to you. And then when we leave the next morning, it looks like no one's ever been there. While we're standing there, I'm thinking, why do we have all these big yellow 18-foot plastic boats with all this stuff when these other people, they have wooden boats and they have motors? They said, well, we don't do the commercial trips. We do the non-commercial trips. The permits are harder to get, and we row our own boats, and we make our own, we're our own guides. Holy crap, what have I got myself into now? Then I found out that I was going to go down the Grand Canyon. It's 277 miles. I thought, I'm going to get a tan, I think. And then they mentioned that the water was 6,000 feet deep. And then they started talking about the rapids, and they started talking about the, what they call the, it's not coming to me. Who knows what they, how they, the rapids and the classes of the rapids. Now, they'd done a lot of rivers, and of course mentioned that the Grand Canyon was the big daddy of them all. So I start big, not small. And they say that in all of the rivers, all over the United States, the rapids in the river are rated on a scale of 1 to 5, and it kind of stretched to 6 once in a while. So when you look on the charts and look in the encyclopedia, you get all that information, and then it says Grand Canyon, 1 to 10. They can't even rate them because the rapids and that you go through and the big drops and all change so frequently because there's so much water. It's just so much water, and it is. The weather, the sun, the temperature, all that makes it, and they have that dam they open and close, all different. So we started going through these rapids. Now, I thought back to those 5,000 people that are looking into the Grand Canyon from those railings. There is a reason they're doing that, because being down there is terrifying. You can die down there. But, as I was informed, once you get on the boat, there's no way out. The walls of the Grand Canyon are like 1 mile up the entire way, and they say no one has ever been able to walk out alive because it's just too treacherous to go. Now, you know, I hate to say that because probably somebody did it, but I certainly wasn't going to try. So they say your odds are better here. Now, as we approach these rapids, you can start to hear the roar of the rapids. And it is like this build-up, and your heart starts beating, and you're like, oh, here. Because at many times there's absolute quiet and silence because the water's not moving very fast. And so a roar would happen, and then they would get out on the big ones, and they would stand around for about an hour and a half, read the guidebook and look and chat and talk and decide and look. Because you always had to decide every time, no matter how many times you've done it, how you were going to go through, because there's not any, you know, the water doesn't stay the same. So we went through Crystal, and this was at about a mile 136. I've got two, I'm going to go back, but the 136 mile, we're going through Crystal. They're up there for an hour and a half, and I am thinking, this is it. I'm going to die. They won't ever know. There won't be any remains. That's just fine with me. You know, I'm an atheist. I don't care what happens. It's a big mystery, and it's fine with me. I'm all ready. And then he comes back to the boat, Tom, and I have one other woman in the boat with me. And Tom said, your job in going through Crystal is to get out on the front of the boat like a maidenhead and hold the front of the boat down and weight it down, because when we go in, if we don't have enough weight in the front of the boat, it'll just go right up the weight, right? So I'm on there. And I'm out, you know, it's like this terrifying water, and I'm out this far into the whole water thing. And so here we go, we start going, and, you know, they're rowing the boats, and I'm holding on. And then I look up, and this wave is coming up, and I am telling you, it is 8 or 9, maybe 10 feet. It is so freaking terrifying. I said, I'm going to die. And then the next thing I know, it's like total silence. Because we go into that wave, and we're totally in the whole boat and everything in it, and us is under that water, and we go through that. It's totally quiet until, you know, you come back out, and the roar of the water is, and it's so exhilarating because I don't know whether you're happy, but I used to make fun of those people at football games because they act so stupid when they get a touchdown. That's how I acted. Yes, I'm alive. Now, another way, big thing we went through was called bedrock. And I know you're thinking of the Flintstones, and Flintstone thing is very close there in Arizona. But bedrock was not one of the really bad ones. I mean, they're all bad, but not really bad. The thing it said in the guidebook is not a bad rapid. Do not go left. Left is dangerous. Do not go left. It's clear enough. So we row in, and we're doing our thing, and there's a big rock there. There's the left, here's the right. And we didn't time it quite right, and we just tapped the rock. Now, if you tap a rock, it's not a big problem because it just throws you back a little bit, no big deal. You know, what you really have to be careful about is when you hit a rock head-on, because you can just wrap the boat and you and everything in it flat against the water, the rock, because the water's coming behind you, and it's like total curtains. So, no big deal. We just kind of tapped that, just adjust that right back out, but something happened. And it spun that boat around, and the next thing I know, we're left. And I'm thinking, holy, but I didn't have time to think that at all, because the next thing I know,
Go left.
go left, is that total silence. Because the boat had flipped. And I'm under it. Now, it's really nice in there. I'm thinking it may be okay to tie like this. I kind of like it in here. But I probably need to get out, and I have had my training. That's another thing. They had to teach me all this stuff. I said, oh, I'll never need that stuff, all that precautionary stuff. But I remember them saying, if you're ever caught under a boat, never happened, but if you ever are, remember that the first attempt that you're going to get out, has to be with every ounce of energy and strength that you have. Because if you continue to try, you will lose energy and power. So you've got to go for it the first time. So I got up around the thing, I found my ropes, I'm ready. Well, it pushed me out from under the boat. The power of the water picked me up and threw me up in the air. And I'm like, and then I'm back in the water. And I'm looking around because there are people, other boats and people standing on the shore that have already gone by, and they're waiting because a lot of people watch. And I'm like seeing them like this. Because I move at probably about 25 miles an hour. And I look ahead, and the water is moving me towards this side of the canyon. It's a mile up, and it's straight rock. Well, training. When you approach a rock, get your legs up, because your legs have some flexibility. You can't just go flat against it. So I had my legs up, and when I got closer to the rock, there was another water movement there, and I was able to get a hold of the rock. And, I'm on there. Good, huh? I look around, and down the way, I see the other people that I'm in the boats with. They've been through, and they didn't flip. And they're down there, and they're all going. Because the water is roaring, and you can't hear them, but I could read their lips. And I said, let go. Training says, no matter what happens, if you're in the water and someone's out, they're in charge. Because if you're in that water, it makes Barton Springs look like a little hot swimming pool. It is so cold that in something like 3 minutes you start to not be able to to move your body. If you're holding on to something, you become like frozen. And it's like 6 minutes or something. Don't hold me to these, but your brain starts to go somewhere else, and so your judgment is not any good. So I'm like, okay. And of course, I start moving at a fast rate of speed, and then from all sides, people are throwing, I forget what they're called, but they throw them out on a rope, and there's this little patch of thing. So I knew I was supposed to get one of those, and I got one of those, and they pulled me in, so I was safe. The other two people I was with were safe. We lost our food, we lost our toilet, we lost a lot of things, but like in life, you make do. But You know, it was a highlight in my life. It's probably one of my top 10 experiences. And after that, I got invited on every raft trip. They couldn't go without me. And I guess in my life, I seek experience and I seek connection. And the Grand Canyon gave me that in spades.
Wow.